Okay, so hi, my name is Sabina Zovchik, and for my final paper, I decided to take on option number 2. So the first thing that option number 2 wants us to discuss is it tells us to talk about 2 ways the media obstructs women's representation in politics. So the first thing that I decided to talk about was double binds, and so what double binds are is that women are either too nice or too kind of shrill and mean. They either choose their career over their family, or they are too old or too young. So the first one that I kind of wanted to talk about is in the Lawless and Fox book, it mentions how media focuses on women achieving their professional success by going after their career, but they neglect their family life. So one thing that the media does is they kind of highlight women in a way where even though they recognize that they are going into the political field, they're kind of leaving their family behind. And so that's kind of one way that the media obstructs women in that way, is that even though they're pursuing something, there's still kind of a negative connotation to why they're doing that because of their family. And so another thing that women kind of go through is that if they lose and they're unsuccessful with their political campaign, then they feel guilty. They feel guilty that they spent all this time and energy towards this political campaign, but they have neglected their family and they feel like they've done that. So I actually found this article in the Atlantic that talks about, it's titled "Women Often Choose Family Over Work," and it's by Parker. And basically what this article talks about is the fact that women are first to adjust their schedules. They are the first people to kind of scrap their career and leave it for their family in comparison to their male counterparts. So women are always more willing to kind of like give up their successes and their careers for their families. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And the second double bind that I talk about is how women are seen as too nice or too rough, I guess. And so I found this NPR article that talks about, it's titled "Too Sweet or Too Shrill, the Double Bind for Women." And I thought this article was really interesting because they never came to kind of like a final conclusion. They just talked about and they analyzed different female candidates in the political realm. And they kind of just pose the question, like, what are women supposed to do? If they're too nice, they're seen as too weak. If they're too kind of shrill, then they're kind of seen as not really relatable, and people are kind of confused and like, what are you doing? So it kind of just overall talks about how women, like whatever women decide to do, whatever their personality is, it always kind of gets a negative outlook through the media. So another point that I make when I talk about how media obstructs women's representation in politics is the fact that the media doesn't cover women accurately in comparison to their male counterparts. So in the Fridkin and Kenny book, it talks about how females typically tend to focus on communal issues such as healthcare, education, so on and so forth. And it talked about how in the media, stories, so it says less than 1/3 of stories written about women discuss communal issues. So even though that's a factor and it's something that women typically discuss, it's not covered in the media as much. So another topic that is discussed in option 3 is discuss one way the media can serve as a powerful tool for increasing women representation. So even though there's a lot of negative sides to the media, there are also positives. And so the first article that I kind of thought about was the India rape case article, and how it kind of spoke about how if women are proactive and they get their opinions out there and they're doing something about what they believe in, then other women kind of see that and they kind of reciprocate those things and they want to get involved. And I also thought about descriptive representation and how if women see other women from similar backgrounds, they look the same, they have the same degree as them, just simple similarities, then the younger generation and women that kind of relate to these female candidates are more likely to get involved. So the media is kind of important in this aspect where these women are their image is publicly seen, and so this can have a positive effect on other women. And so then the last question is if you were a media campaign manager, what are 2 rules that you would instruct your female candidate to do, to use, what not to do, what not to use? So I specifically focused on telling my female candidate to get close to a female journalist, because this female journalist will more than likely cover this female in ways that are accurate, and they can kind of share a connection and a bond and have something in common. And I feel like this would kind of fix this media issue. And my second kind of point, and my second rule, I guess, would be to listen to the citizens. And I feel like this is the most important thing, because when candidates are running for public office, they're not doing it for the media, they are doing it for the citizens. And in the Friedkin and Kenny text, it talked about how citizens, their perspective doesn't really align with the perspective of the media. The media has a completely different perspective than candidates do for the most part, and these candidates are in favor of these female politicians. So I just thought that was really interesting, and that was my final paper for Women in Politics. So thanks for watching.